Hey guys, how are you? Welcome to our podcast with Shannon and Lena. Um, we are going to have some shenanigans with Shannon and Lena, but usually it's a lighter note. And today we're going to talk about a little heavier note, but in within good boundaries. All right. So Shannon, how are you?
Doing well, doing well. Hello, everybody.
Good, good. And so basically, what is our topic today? It's mental health. And so I'll give a quick definition of what I found when I searched in Google. So, mental health encompasses the emotional, psychological, and social well being, not just the absence of mental illness, but a state of well being that allows individuals to realize their uh, potential, cope with life's stresses, and contribute to their communities. Like they're able to effectively, right, to their communities. And so that is what we're talking about: mental health, and then of course mental illness. And I think we sometimes get it mixed up. We
Yeah,
hear mental health so
right.
much, and we're like, now we go straight into,
Mm.
you know what I mean, and disorders like depression, this and that. No, mental health
Health,
is
right.
the healthy
Yeah,
part. Then there's a mental illness and mental disorder
right.
part, right?
Yeah.
All right. So go
No,
ahead.
just you brought out a good point. Just that distinction, because a lot of times we do think mental health, people automatically think of mental illness, and there is a distinction between the two. And I do believe that mental um, illnesses obviously impact your mental health, but they are still they still have a separation there. So I look at it like mental health is your overall well being, just like you think about your physical health. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so you brought out some good points, being able to cope with stress and recognize your abilities and contributing to the community. It almost, when you really think about it, it makes me think of really knowing who you are. That's what comes to mind.
I agree. I agree, and I will. That's funny you said that because when we get a little further down, it's something I saw that hits on that. So let's go. We talked about it being the entire being,
Correct.
right? So emotional, psychological, and social. So let's look at emotional. That's the being able to cope with a wide range of emotions. And so when we talk about that, so don't, right? I'm not throwing extra in. This is the researched
Right.
definition. Emotional, being able to cope with a wide range of emotions. In my head, that just means being able to
Right.
life from a healthy standpoint, because life is life and all the time. But just being able to deal with it in a way it does not overwhelm
Correct.
you.
Yes.
Would you
Like
agree?
being able to feel it all, but at the same time, not get stuck or, being able to persevere, push through, but at the same time grow from all of what you feel. Like I love the movie. Mm, Help me out. What did we go see?
The
No,
porch? What are you
the one,
talking about? You
the
gotta
one
tell
with
me what's.
the all the different emotions and stuff with the kid.
Oh yes, Inside
Inside Out.
Out.
Yes. So,
Inside
I,
Out. Yeah. And yes, guys, we
right.
watch
But
kiddie
the thing
movies.
about it
they're,
is, that I
they're
think
good.
that's what makes it make sense sometimes is, making it childlike, keeping it
Yeah.
simple. That's what it was all
Mm-hmm.
about, is that you need all of those emotions make you who you are. And so I think we
Mm-hmm.
spend so much time trying to avoid things that are not what we feel are good emotions. But,
That's
so we
good.
look at, oh, if I'm not happy, then I don't want to deal with that, and so I think that
Mm-hmm.
makes it difficult to life.
I I hear that. And I think when you said that about the if we're not happy, right, then something must be wrong, because I think that's one of the biggest things right now in this generation is that they think they just should be happy all the time. And then sometimes us, because I can, you know what I mean, I can be the same where I'm like, I just want everything to be
Right,
okay,
right,
you know? But it's more of but this generation is almost, if it's not in perfect little boxes, like something's wrong and we're going to have a whole fit. So let's jump to that real quick. This is still in the emotional side, but that is now the definition of mental disorder, of a mental disorder, the wide range of conditions that affect the mood, thinking, and behavior. So, like you said, it's a normal, these are all normal emotions that we are supposed to experience, right, as a human being. The problem is when they become so big, they interfere with our normal life and
right.
living. That's the disorder. And it's, I love words. And so disorder just means something's out of order, not that something's totally, wrong
Right.
with you. It's just that something is out of order and it happens to be in the
Correct.
mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That simplifying things, it's out of order. A dis-ease is a
Right.
dis-ease in the body. So disorder is just out of order in the mind for a
Correct.
moment. So go ahead. I'm sorry. That just pump, 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 pump when you said about it being stuff that we're supposed to experience, but we can take it overboard or it can become overboard dealing with, depending on the situation we're in
Correct.
at that time.
Yeah. Agree. I
Yeah.
think we tend to not realize how important that all of those feelings are, all those emotions are. And I think it starts from a young age too. I know in our generation, coming up, we were kind of not really, well, I can only speak for me, but I know several other people who had similar experiences. You kind of were taught to not express, or, which made me as a kid feel like I'm not supposed to feel this way. So now as an adult, that tends to make me struggle a little bit when I'm feeling something that I feel is not joyous. Like, oh, I shouldn't feel this way. But it's all really a part of, it's a part of the process. It's part of the process.
Part of life, yeah. When you say you're not supposed to feel a certain way, are you saying when we were possibly angry and couldn't totally express ourselves at that
Correct.
moment? It's like, don't talk
Correct.
back, don't smack your lips, don't do this.
Correct.
Is that what we're just talking? Okay.
Angry,
I just want to make sure we're on the same
angry,
page.
mad, even sad, because our parents
Mhm.
were so tough that they, you know, oh, you be all right, you know, and and not saying that's not true, but there was no validation,
Like, I'm not
right? There
okay
was no
right now.
validation. There was no,
I'm not okay
and
right
there
now.
was no acknowledgement of how I feel in this moment, and it's okay for me to feel that
Right.
way. So I think that makes it
Mm-hmm.
difficult for people in our generation for sure. And then that's
Mm-hmm.
probably why we see such a shift with the generation behind us, because we want to kind of give them what we didn't get. So sometimes we let them express, and it goes a little, far, almost where
Wow.
it seems disrespectful to the elders and to the teachers and
Yeah.
things like that. But honestly, it's like, well, they're just, you know, it's okay for them to tell me how they feel. It's okay for them to tell me, Mom,
Right.
I don't feel loved right now. That's not something we
Mm-hmm.
would have said.
I mean, it's not what you want to
Exactly.
hear, but you have to be emotionally intelligent enough to receive that if they're
Absolutely. But
saying it.
you
You
know,
know?
in my day, I would have never thought to say that, even if I felt it, because immediately my brain goes to, I ain't supposed to feel that way, right? And so I think that's
Yeah.
where there can be a big difference with all of those emotions.
I think it's a beautiful thing though, because I think we're that generation to
Yeah,
bridge.
that's true.
You know what I mean? Those things, because if fair enough, regardless of how we felt about it, that generation could not express themselves. That it was a
True.
survival mode for
Yeah,
them,
that's true.
right? Now, I will say to caveat that if they are in that, if they were in that generation where they had to just kind of muster up enough
Hmm.
emotion to just
Right.
survive, right? In some aspects. Then, but I also believe that now that you're older, they say you can't teach a dog, old dog new tricks, but there is still a moment to
Correct.
heal. I do believe
Absolutely.
that. Um, and then we noticed that whole moment where we had to kind of go through that, and now we're like,
Mm.
you can talk, and I am big on you can talk, but you can talk with
Correct. Now that's
boundaries.
that.
Don't talk out of the side of your neck and get real
Right.
crazy and froggy. You know what I mean? Because then it's not going to go as well. But I think that's from the standpoint, not necessarily of control. It's just more of healthy communication and healthy
I agree.
conversations. Because as an adult to adult, me and you, if we talk, we're not going to get out of pocket with each other. We don't have to agree, but we know how to
Correct.
speak to each other. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? So as a kid, you're
Mm.
learning that, and I need to teach you that's how you talk to people when you get older
Correct.
as
I
well.
agree.
Okay. Okay. So, um, but yeah, it's funny is that don't say anything at all. Us, we're like, kind of feeling something different. Next generation is like, I have all the
Right.
feels on one.
Right.
Lord help us. Let us meet somewhere in the
Yeah.
middle. Okay. All right. So do you have anything else to say as far as that emotional
No,
side?
I think we're good.
Okay, let's move to psychological. So that's having a positive sense of self, making sound decisions. So the emotional part was dealing with the
Hmm.
emotions and our feels. Now it's cognition and
Okay.
thinking and making sound decisions. So, what do you want to? How do you feel about that part?
This is probably one of the parts that we don't think about as often.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say it kind of makes sense of why I was, as I was doing my research, I saw that the age group of 18 to 25 is most likely to have mental health issues. And that makes sense with what
Okay.
the psychological side, because they are in that phase where they're trying to figure it out. Who am I apart from mom and dad? Who am I after college? What is my career? What do I like? What I don't like? The societal pressure of all these things going on that I should be doing this or that. So in that age group, they are they're like the top right now with mental health issues.
But that's a normal
Correct.
lifing. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? That's disorder because we're just out of order. And who's to fault that age? Because like some days, I don't know what I want to do
Correct.
when I grow up. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. We don't know the full totality of who
Right.
we are sometimes, but we can make sound decisions if we are in a good
Correct.
headspace. So it's still disorder, I think, not that it's
Correct.
illness, because the illness part, and honestly, and I might get some kickback from this, but the illness part I think comes in is right when it becomes excessive. But the excessive part is also still in my head tied to those moments when, because you don't have anybody
Right.
to speak to or talk to, then you never get a release.
Right. Or you don't have a relationship with God, and that foundation is not there, so you trying to carry it all, and you still a baby.
And it won't get
You
us
a
to
baby.
carry.
You need help. You can't do it alone. And
Yes.
again, that age range, you want to be an adult. So you're kind of like, I can't wait till. I remember doing the same thing. You know,
We'd be like,
shoot, man, I can't wait
okay.
to just have my own stuff and do my own thing. And you think you want that, but you don't know yet. And then all these things start happening. And if you don't have that foundation, yes, you might feel like something ain't right up there because you may spaz out, but you got to have that foundation, got to have that support, and it's definitely important to have that relationship with God, because if you don't have anybody else, you got him, and he gonna always come through.
He will when we figure that part out.
That's when
He
life get
will.
better.
Because when you said
That's when, I
yes,
mean, and it ain't that life
that's true.
changed. It's just that you now
Right.
recognize that, oh, I should have been giving this to you the whole time. That's what,
I
First
like
Peter
it.
5:7. Cast all your cares on me, for I
Hmm.
care for you. So, give it to him, and that's hard. Again, linking it
It
back
is.
to the, I recently discovered, even for myself at this age, that I struggle to do that sometimes, simply because of that same thing I was saying about feeling guilty about feeling a certain way. If I feel guilty about
Mm.
something, how can I come to you and say, I feel this way? I already feel guilty. It's hard for me to let it go, because I'm like feeling like there's going to be disappointment or whatever, and so
But that's the snake talk. As much as I'm sorry, but even when you were talking about the whole giving it to God, those are the moments that you have to know and distinguish God saying,
right,
"Give it here. I can handle." And the devil saying, "No, don't. You better
right,
not. Don't give it because you can't." Da, da, da. It still is always a war. The mind is a
yes.
battlefield, but it is always a war. And so when you said that and said, we want to handle it, all I could think in my head, all I could see was both of us have kids. And you remember when they were like two
Mm.
or three, and they might have a little bag and they dragging and struggling. They're like, I got it. And you're like,
Help
let
you.
me help you. I got
No.
it. I
Yeah.
got it. Right.
No.
And
Mm,
bad. Let me
mhm.
carry it. So I think sometimes that is how it is with us, right? When it's a spiritual thing, or I'm well, sorry, an emotional thing, which still can be spiritual, that we are sitting there like that little toddler dragging that
Mhm.
bag, talking about we got it, and someone bigger and better than us is saying, I can carry it
Right.
for you.
Just
Like
let
just
go.
here. And you're like,
Right.
now that is
Mm.
is a little,
Yes.
what I mean? It doesn't make
Doesn't.
sense sometimes what our flesh and snake talk
We do. Yes.
will make us do
Mm.
and go through.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and to add another scripture, one of my favorites is the um, Isaiah 26:3. He will keep you in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on him because we trust in
Yes.
him. Give the book bag up, doggone it. Give it up. Now, all right. And we are not, disclaimer, we are not taking it lightly, but I feel
You do.
like, you
Yeah.
remember stuff when you can relate it to things. All right. Anything, let's see. So let's do social. And if you want to bounce back to psychological, of course, come on back. But let's do social. Social says, from the standpoint of mental health, is building and maintaining healthy relationships, communicating effectively, and feeling connected to others.
Okay.
Should I say it again
No,
or we
no,
got
no,
it?
no. I think we got that.
Okay. Yeah. So, do you want
Yeah,
to
let's
start
start
with
with
that?
that, because that has changed so much over time because of social media, right? So now we're less active in our communities, and it's
Mm.
got smaller families. I was reading somewhere, I
Mm-hmm.
think it was CBT Baltimore doc, something like that. According to CBT Baltimore,
Okay.
it was talking about how many more people live alone these days, which is also causes an increase of anxiety. And with that being said, people tend to avoid social settings more now than ever. And you know,
Wow.
the pandemic and just the way the world has shifted, um, I think this is a big piece of the mental health
Mm.
today, because people don't feel connected. They don't, if you got you have so much
Ooh,
stuff you can do online, and if you can just do it
yeah,
online and you don't have to get out, but then that causes you to, if you don't communicate often, then you won't know how to communicate well, work with others well. It's a lot of different things.
yeah. Okay, okay, wait, because you said a mouthful. Seriously. So when you said there's more people that are anxious now that live by
Right.
themselves, and also even in
Hmm.
COVID, right? COVID brought out a whole
Right.
lot of stuff that had been sitting and lying dormant. But let's go back to now, what we just talked about a few minutes ago. You have a generation that is now living alone. Now, when we were kids, latchkey kids, you come in the house, right? You got stuff to do. There were no cell
Right.
phones. Also, even being anxious, we joke about it. Well, I know we did. We used to joke about it all the time. Like, you don't hear stuff until you home by yourself at night. The floor crack, the air come on. You just like, what is
Right.
that?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
That now to be fair and be real, isn't that being
Yeah.
anxious? Because you're right. But that's natural because you're home by
Correct.
yourself. But now we're in a generation of, okay, so we went from the generation that don't feel anything and just go ham, like they just live life, to the bridge of we feel some stuff and we're trying to navigate and figure out how to do
Right.
the thing. To a generation now that will speak, will feel, but they're feeling too much.
Yeah.
All because they're alone
That makes
and don't.
makes a lot of
You get? So now you have, I feel all the things and I don't talk and I can't talk and I don't speak on things. And I'm going to take it right back. The whole job sometimes is the enemy will
Yep.
isolate you. And so if you do not have a relationship with
Mm.
daddy and can't
Right.
talk to him, who's talking to you?
That's true.
That's
That is
enough
enough.
to be in
It
disorder.
is.
You know what I mean? You stuck somewhere. You got a chatty negative friend, right? Or you got a positive friend. But the positive friend might not be contributing to and that mouthy friend just
Right.
going. What you gonna be feeling? You're going to start feeling all
Right.
the feels, the negative
And
stuff.
that's the ones that don't
And
feel
that is how
heavier.
he does.
Right.
Man.
And it's crazy.
You watch movies, you have one person real smart trying to figure something out, and you have the other one saying, oh my God, we're going to die. Shut up.
But
I need something else to
it's
talk.
crazy because what you're saying makes a lot of sense, and it makes it link to mind.org said that 1 in 5 people have suicidal thoughts. And so
Okay,
you're looking at
yes,
that.
but did you get the
I
age
did not get
range?
the age range. Okay,
I did.
awesome.
Hold on, which is crazy to me. The second leading cause of death among, you said
One
one
in
in what?
five.
Ages 10 to
Ugh,
14.
mm, that's crazy.
Ages 10 to 14. So you're 18 to what?
25.
25, 26, 25 is trying to figure it out. Now you got your 10 to 14s that really don't even have a way, don't feel like there's a way out. Feeling all the things, not talking, and mind you, again, now we can pinpoint. So 18 to 25 are shifting from child to am I adult? Do I want to
Mm,
be an adult? How do you
all
be an
right.
adult? 10 to 14, they're just getting ready to go into
Yeah.
that stage and puberty.
Yep.
So it's crazy that the shifts, the higher numbers are in those moments where there's a shift happening. So it's almost like who going with you through your
Yeah.
shift, your next level in life.
Yeah. I agree.
Oh my
And I
goodness.
saw another, which I feel like this is going to be a mouthful. um, but
Oh gosh.
women are more likely to have mental illness than men. Why do you think
Repeat.
women are more likely to have mental illness than men? Why do you think that is?
You
I
want me
do.
to answer that?
I'm very curious about your
Oh
thoughts on
Lord.
this one.
Because we we are the carrier of all things, right? We're not necessarily spiritual standpoint the head, but we showing up the spine of the house, the children, the friends. You
Yes,
know what I
yes.
mean? The head is there to see and vision and this and that, but the spine, honey, you every the
You
spine is the
connected
central
to
nervous
everything.
system, the CPU of the body. Can we not? Like, I will not preach. I do not preach, but I'm
You sure
saying
about
it is everything. And when you look at the body, whether it be an arm, the brain, the legs, the GI tract, whatever, everything goes right into
yeah.
the spine.
Mm.
So
We carry
all the
babies.
we are the giver, and we can't nothing. So everything in this world, crazy or not, we are the only ones that can
Mhm.
bring humans into this world.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot. And
So why would we not be the brunt?
right.
We the whole wheelbarrow. I got it.
Hmm.
Bloop. Welcome to the world.
Yeah.
Why would we not be?
That makes,
We have a huge
we do.
responsibility. We are the ones that we either can water and something flourish and multiply it, or our words and our actions will kill something.
Now that's true. I mean, you can see that in marriages, and that's, yeah, that's powerful.
How many people got mommy
That's powerful.
issues
I
that
think
have
if
daddy
there's
issues?
outside of a man having, a relationship with God and making sure that he's accepted him and all of that, the
Come on.
the other most important decision is the woman he chooses.
That's right. Well, vice versa. Woman
That's
too.
true.
Woman too. But yes, I think ultimately, yes, because I think even with that, right, the Bible says, is it in Proverbs like favor? She
Yes.
carries
Hmm.
favor. And there are certain things when you are connected, even in marriage, that will happen or won't happen depending on who and how you're connected.
I believe it.
So we carry we carry a lot. We have a big responsibility, and it's nothing I don't think we can't handle. It just has to be handled with
Right.
God. You can't do this
I
big
agree.
stuff.
I think
There's not a way. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, you
Go
can
ahead.
finish because I may be shifting.
I was just I was just gonna say there's no way in the world that you can raise kids without asking the Lord for help and advice. I used to have a saying, and it's totally a saying, is nothing crazy, I'm okay. But I like to joke, and my daughter will tell you, she would do something when she was of age and could understand. She would do something, and I just look at her and be like, this is why animals eat their young. She'd be like, Mom, it's a joke. But you need help.
Yeah,
You need help
I agree.
raising these babies and going through
Yeah,
marriage. You do. Relationships with friends, all the things like what to say, what not to say, when
right.
to pray. We
And I
carry a
think
lot.
that's the the whole point of this conversation in general is the fact that what you just said, you need help. And the only way your mental health will be okay is if you got help, and that help is God. But there are people He's gonna place in your life, and you need to recognize and be able to discern and who your community is, who your village is. And not only that,
Mm-hmm.
be okay with not being okay sometimes. That is not a bad thing to not be okay. But I think the bad thing is to not be okay and not tell anyone, and not, you know what I mean? To
And
yeah,
stay
because
there.
again,
And
like you said, that's the strategy of the devil, is to isolate you. So he isolates you and you're
mm,
not okay, and no one knows that you're not okay. That's where we end up in those
yeah.
suicidal situations and things like that. But just as much as mental health and mental illnesses have taken a rise over the years, so has resources. And so,
Mm-hmm.
we can't
Yeah.
neglect the fact that there are so many things out there that we can be doing proactively, to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that our mental health is good. And
Mm-hmm.
then, in those situations where there is mental illness or mental disorders, then there are there's care and treatment for that, which was not present back in the day. People would end up in prisons
Right.
and just confinement because
Institution.
we
Yeah.
didn't know
Yeah.
enough about mental illness then. We didn't know enough about mental health in general. So when things were
Mm.
out of order, you basically were confined, and now,
Which is still being put by
right, you're
yourself,
isolated. There you
where
go.
he's still talking. You know what I mean? Yeah. So with that, when we talk about there's less, right, asylums and things
Hmm.
like that now. Another stat, though, it says one, so serious mental illness, right? We know that when we still talk about illness, whether it be of the mind or the body, there are illnesses. You can get sick from a cold, flu,
Hmm.
whatever. And there are treatments and there are, you can get better. And of course, there are other illnesses that don't necessarily get better, if you will, by themselves. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? But God is still a healer. I will always stick with that. I'm crazy enough to believe God is still a healer. But when we talk about it, it says 1 in 20 U.S. adults, so U.S. adults experience a serious mental illness each year. I got stuck on the word
Hmm.
experience because it's not necessarily I have it and I'm
Right.
stuck with it. It's that I experience
I
it,
like that.
okay, each year. And lifetime prevalence, it says about 31.6% of U.S. adults experience an anxiety disorder at some point. It is not a permanent diagnosis if it's an
That's a good point.
experience.
That's two very good points, because I can remember
I get excited.
about
I
20
get
years
excited.
ago when I
Uh
moved
huh.
here to Huntsville, Alabama. I
Yes.
don't know if that was just the rise of anxiety at that time, or if it was just different here, because I'm originally from New Orleans, and I never, up through to 21 years old, I never heard anyone say I have anxiety. And I got here and I met
Me.
so many people that were like, I have anxiety. And I was confused because I was like,
Me too.
what do you, what do you mean you have anxiety? Like, isn't that a normal feeling? Don't we all feel anxious at times?
Right.
So
How
I
you
didn't
labeling yourself
understand
with
that
it.
it was something people were being diagnosed with and being medicated for. So I was really confused, to the point where I was just like, this is something like, this ain't right.
No,
you know.
thank you. You
But
might no, thank you.
I said that to say that, to your point, we're all gonna experience anxiousness,
Hmm.
at some point. And I think just the
Hmm.
way society is right now, everyone is running and immediately thinking, "Oh my God, I experienced anxiety. I must have anxiety," and that's not necessarily true. You may have had a moment.
Something happened.
You
You
had a
had that
moment.
moment. Let's figure out how to work through
Exactly.
that moment. But you know what? Let's talk about when you said there's so much social media. On social media ain't gaming,
Yeah.
right? Some people can't distinguish the two or differentiate the two because in a game, you mess up, something go down real bad. What'd you hit? Hit the reset
Hmm.
button.
That's true.
If ain't no reset button in real life
Right.
outside. So I think again, all the fields, so much information, and a disconnect from normal day to day
Right.
life
Yeah.
is where
I,
we are. You know what I mean? Because I never in my life would I have. I'm sorry. Because this is the distinction between all that, and you can't, like, I don't know how anybody, oh, they're talking about the spiritual side, da da da. How do you
yeah.
not, when we are not necessarily, when we are spiritual
Oh,
beings,
yeah.
for one,
Absolutely.
but right, when we're spiritual beings, but then something is working so hard to get you by yourself that you can't fathom how you're really supposed to feel and get out of something. That's not normal always. It's normal to feel, it's not normal to
Correct.
stay.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? In that. And so never in my life, and of course I'm not going to call names or the artist or anything. But it's so much. So for the book you told me about, there's a whole book called The Anxious
Yes.
Generation.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
come on. But then you, it's so important to have a level of
Oh,
God
yeah.
in your life that you don't even recognize. Right? The Bible says, right, life and
Oh.
death are in the power of
Hmm.
the tongue. I can feel nervous and scared about something and never in my life speak it. Once you speak it, the body hears and
Yep.
follows, right? You can think it, we're good. But to think it, start speaking it, and acting on it is
Right.
totally different.
Because
So,
when you speak in
example,
it, you're
if
accepting
we're
it.
not, yes, but how is it not a spiritual fight? That if life and death lies in the power of the tongue, there's a song that
Yeah.
literally sings about it. All the things and bopping with it, bad little beat. You're speaking it and repeating it and practicing it all over and over again. And you don't think your body and your spirit will react to that? That is
I
crazy to
agree.
me.
I agree.
Okay.
So
Okay. All right.
let's talk about, as we
Okay, go
kind
ahead.
of, wrap it up, let's talk about some really good ways to kind of keep your mental health in a good place. What are some things? Obviously we talked about relationship with God. That should be foundational. That should be, the
Mm-hmm.
center of it all, right? But we're still here in the flesh. We're still human, right? So life is still going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
What are some other things that you do, or you others do, to as a preventative for their mental health, or management, shall I say, of their mental health?
The first thing I'll say is, um, and I'll do it in this particular order because I think it matters. I was going to say talk first, but I'm not. I'm going to say pick and check your circle first before you talk.
That's important.
Because you
You might
might,
talk to the wrong people.
okay, there you go.
I've done
So
it.
it's pick your circle of friends, and I use that lightly. make sure they are a friend. Make sure there's someone that could be there in your corner, um, even in success, right? My, you got circle of 5 friends. If ain't nobody going nowhere, if no one's going anywhere, and everybody's suffering from something negatively, and they don't have an outlet positively, you just gonna be the fifth, sixth dumbest, not dumbest,
Right.
but you know what I mean. In business, they
Right.
say,
Right.
right, you got 5 friends going nowhere, you be the sixth. And so I think it's the same thing with the circle you have. So if you have friends full of just hopelessness, that is your circle. You're just gonna be the next one in the
Right.
circle to be
Yeah.
the same.
It'll bring you down for
Uh,
sure.
it'll bring you down because even if you were a strong person, right? Well, the Bible says, um, uh, evil communication, right, corrupts. I'm saying it wrong, but evil communication corrupts good
Yes.
behavior. Like you're going to be pulled in that direction because um, you have nothing else connected to you. So talk. So choose friends, choose your circle, and then talk. That would be my
Okay.
two. Talk, 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 talk. You don't have to share everything, but talk. Talk to them where you get an outlet, and also talk to God in prayer and believing that things will change because your mindset change. Your mindset is everything.
I agree. I would second those. I would probably add to it to kind of just foster like gratefulness, thankfulness, positivity. Like if it's one time a day, if you can sit and just kind of reflect on the good things, because naturally, so we're gonna put emphasis on, oh, this bad thing happened to me, or this didn't go the way I wanted it to go. And you might be missing that little small thing that happened that looks small, but is big when you really think about it. And so I think
That's right.
taking the time to really intentionally look at what positive things happened to me today. I think that's
And
a
be
good thing to
grateful.
do.
It's that moment of gratitude,
Absolutely.
right?
And then I think
Mm-hmm.
in addition to that, just journaling in general. If you don't, you can talk all day. You're never going to tell people everything. We should tell God
No.
everything. But
Mm-hmm.
in the event that talking is a struggle, um, writing is a way to release and get some of that stuff out so you're not carrying it. You might be able to just, it's another way to get it off your chest. So I would
That's so.
say that's good. And then just get involved. Get involved in something. Um,
Your local
church, right?
church.
Something in
Mm-hmm.
the
A good church.
like something positive and constructive that can keep you going, where you'll meet good people that are
Mm-hmm.
striving to stay in good mental health also. And last but not least, there's nothing wrong with going to therapy. Nothing wrong with it at all, whether it be just to have an ear, or if you actually have some things you need to heal through. We all got something, that we got to heal through. And so,
But I will say vet your counselor because
you said,
yeah, vet your
vent.
counselor. Make sure it's a
Yeah.
good fit. Sorry. Because, and I say that because just like there's good doctors, bad doctors, there's good counselors, bad counselors, but they're getting into your psyche, they're getting into your head. So vet your counselor to make sure it's a good fit and they talking right. You know what I mean? You don't want to end up in a whole little moment.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. You
I
know what
do.
I'm
I get
saying.
it. I know.
Vet your doctor, vet your counselor. Okay. Any other, so, okay, can I add a
You
couple more
can.
scriptures? Because I think people get to the point where they say, I hear you talking about God and I hear you talking about this, but even with the scriptures, we talked about Him keeping you in perfect peace. And can I add that God's peace, like, goes beyond human comprehension. Like, it does not make sense sometimes with something that is going on and people don't understand like how you can still have a level of peace because it does not make sense
Hmm.
naturally.
I get it.
When you can when you can get in God and talk to him and pray and him speak back to you, because prayer is talking and
It's
listening,
true.
right? The meditation part. Prayer, we be like, God, I need this, and I hurt, and my ankle hurt, and my heart hurt because of this, and da da da. Okay, thank you, but we don't wait for instruction or sometimes things back. So it's not a
Right.
conversation. It's just a
Right. It's just
venting
you.
moment,
Yeah.
and you left. You know
Right.
what I mean? So God's peace will go beyond human comprehension. Psalms 4 and 6 says, "Seek refuge in faith and prayer." We talked about that. Even so, the spiritual side will be the praying and talking to God and reading the Word. Can we talk about getting in the
Yes.
Word? Because listen, there is nothing new under the sun. God felt all the things even before he went to
That's
the
true.
cross. He felt anxious. He felt scared. He felt all the things. He did not stay there.
Right.
Hallelujah. But he felt all the things. And so,
You know the word,
uh,
then
even that,
you have something to fight with now. You have, yeah.
you have, right. That joker talking like this, you need to
Hmm.
come on back, Call it roasting and joning back in the day. Like, give it back to the enemy. Be anxious for nothing. Philippians 4, 6 through 7. People that get hurt and go through grief a certain way and get stuck in there. Psalms 34 and 18. He is close to the brokenhearted and a healer of wounded
Mm.
spirits. And the last, Romans 12 and 2, you know, renewing your mind is basically what
Yes.
that is. So we wanted to throw right natural or doctor and counseling and all of that in, but also there's scripture to back up everything we go through.
Absolutely.
There's word from the Lord with everything that we
Right.
go through. And then I will add, I don't know if you agree, we'll see. Um, there's a book we just finished reading. We are not getting paid. There is no sponsorship, but
Oh
The Energy
yeah.
Bus.
Hmm. Perfect for this.
Perfect for young
Yes.
adults when we talk about choosing your circle and who's going to be with you and who's draining
Energy
your
vampires.
man. I think it's a really good
It
book for
is.
young
I agree with
adults.
that. I think it's definitely something
Yeah.
people should read at
I
age.
don't know the author. We are not getting paid. I'm just saying it was a really good book. And I think every young adult, we agree, young adults
I
should
wish I
read
read
it.
it sooner,
So let
but
me
yeah.
put that out there. Listen, 2020, my hindsight is 2020 for
Yeah.
real. I do too. I think it would be something that would have definitely kind of boosted certain
Yeah.
areas. You would have wasted less time on
That's
certain
for sure.
people. I'm gonna leave it there. You would have wasted less time on certain people. So, you have anything else to add?
I don't. I don't. I think it was good. I hope that you all got something out of it. Because we all need to make sure that our mental health is well balanced, right? So
Right. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed. We do hope you got something out of it. I really enjoyed this chat. We might have to do a
I think
part two.
so.
We'll see what the people say.
I think we'll have to.
We'll see what the people say. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Shenanigans with Shannon and Lena, and we will see you next
Don't
time.
forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.
All right.